In today's video, I am really excited to share with you some luxury wardrobe staples I have been loving this fall. Some of these are brand new to my collection this year, while others are tried and true pieces, ones I've been relying on for years every single fall. These are kind of those must-have fall pieces that will make you look expensive no matter your budget. Now, I definitely have some more pricey pieces here from brands like Hermes, Tom Brown. I even have a new bag from Celine to share with you, but this video is more about the core pieces rather than where you get them from. So I will make sure to give you some more accessible alternatives too, because I can tell you that any one of these pieces, regardless of where you get them from, will make you look instantly a lot more polished and elegant, whether you're getting ready for a busy day in the city or you're trying to keep it minimal and cozy in the countryside. But without further ado, if you'd like to hear my best tips for building that perfect luxury capsule wardrobe for the fall season, basically my top picks for what to invest in, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and keep on watching. You know me, I am not known for being concise, so let's dive straight in. And I wanted to start with a piece of knit. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you'll know that I love my simple black and gray cashmere knits. Those are pieces that I feel like at this point go without saying. Those are things that I feel like we all need in our wardrobes. Something that I have not talked about that much, however, even though it's something I pretty much live in, not only in the fall, but all year round, is a beautiful knitted vest. The reason I love a vest is because it's something that you can do so much with. You can wear, of course, one of these vests on their own without anything underneath them in the spring and summer. You can dress these up with a high-waisted tailored pair of trousers, but in the fall, they really come into their own because they become the most incredible layering piece. You can layer these over a simple t-shirts that we'll move on to in just a second for a more casual look with a pair of baggy jeans, but you can certainly dress them up with a shirt underneath them or even a denim shirt if you're going for something in between like I am today. I didn't want to wear a proper formal white shirt, even though I could have. I wanted to go a little bit more laid back and a little bit more casual, which is why I opted for a denim shirt. And it's something that you can do beautifully with a knitted vest. This one is a vest from Tom Brown. Tom Brown is one of my favorite brands for vests, but I also have, I would say that my most worn vest is probably from the Row, which is a cashmere vest. If you are looking to invest in a really simple but timeless creation, that's a great one to opt for. But as I mentioned, I will make sure to have some more accessible, more reasonably priced alternatives listed in the info box for you. But this not only adds some warmth to an outfit, but also some texture, some interest, and it's something that you can do so much with. I think this will become a true hero in your collection. And of course, we cannot talk about a full wardrobe without mentioning outerwear. Now, I could have picked leather jackets, I could have talked about trench coats, but the type of jacket I've been reaching for the most this fall is a wax jacket. Now, I might use the term barber and wax jacket interchangeably here, and that's not because I'm a snob about it or because you necessarily have to go to barber for a wax jacket, but I feel like they are synonymous with this style. But there are plenty of high street dupes and alternatives out there. But if you don't mind investing a little bit more money into a wax jacket, something that you know will last decades, they are, of course, a great brand to go to. I am actually quite confused by some of their styles. If you would like me to do some research and maybe do a style guide on their different jackets, because a lot of them are also named quite similar, let me know. I can definitely do that. I can order different styles because at this point I am not an expert by any means, but I could do some research and maybe do a comparison video. But what matters here is that I love a wax jacket, and my pro tip here is to either go for a style that's slightly oversized or to go up a size, because that means that you have some room to layer things underneath this jacket, because I actually find these jackets incredibly versatile. I think that while a lot of people will think of these as more of a casual country look. I actually much prefer these to the look of a puffy jacket. So what I tend to do with these sort of jackets is that I will layer things like a fleece underneath them or an actual sort of puffy jacket, not one of those big Michelin man looking ones. So here I'm not thinking about my gigantic Canada Goose jackets, but I do have some thinner down-filled jackets that are still considered a winter jacket that I can fit underneath one of these wax jackets, which will look a lot more elevated and a lot more timeless. This is a true investment piece that I think you will have in your collection for decades. And as I said, I love layering things underneath them because while Barbour does offer some more winter appropriate wax jackets, if you go for just a regular standard wax jacket, they are not going to be the warmest things out there. They might be water repellent, but they will not protect you from extremely cold weather. So what I love doing is I love layering things like a fleece lined jacket underneath them. Some of my fleeces are from Uniqlo. Uniqlo does some great fleece, more sweaters than jackets every single year, but they tend to be seasonal. So if you don't get lucky this year, you might not be able to buy one from them. I also love the fleece offered by Jules, which is a brand kind of in the same league with Barbour, or yeah, maybe they're not in the same league, but they definitely play on the same field, not at the same time, but they have that similar heritage British countryside aesthetic. And I really like their basic staple pieces, like their fleece jackets, which make for an amazing layering piece. I don't know if I would wear, well, I would actually wear a fleece jacket on its own, not a fleece gilet. They do gilets and jackets. And if you're going to invest in a gilet, that's an amazing piece to not only layer underneath things like a wax jacket, but you can also put them underneath a cashmere or a wool coat, which might not be warm enough on its own when we move into the colder month of winter. But the fleece that I have here is an ultra luxury alternative from Hermès. This is actually from their equestrian line, which they do both for men and women. What I like about this particular jacket is that it's extremely fitted because, of course, it was designed for horse riding and you do not want to have excess material on you when you're trying to tame a gigantic beast underneath you. So this is really quite fitted. I did go for quite a large size, so it's not so fitted that I cannot put a sweater underneath it, but it is nicely tailored. Let me just put it that way. It does have a water repellent outer shell, and then the body, the sleeves aren't, but the body is fleece lined, which makes it really nice and cozy. They do these, as I said, both for men and women in some really basic colors. So it comes in this olive green. It also comes in navy. And I think they have also done it in orange in the past. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about accessories. Something that I think we all need in our fall winter collections is two belts, and they can be in the exact same color, in the exact same leather. They can be the exact same style. But what I would recommend that you do is that you find the perfect belt that suits you in terms of width, price, quality, and design, and get it with gold hardware, and then get a belt with silver hardware. And I am not saying that you need those two colors to perfectly match them with the hardware on your bags or the hardware of your jewelry. I don't think there's anything wrong with mixing and matching metals when it comes to a single outfit. The reason I think you need two belts with two different colored hardwares is to make sure that it blends more with the overall tone and temperature of your outfit, because there are going to be outfits that lean a lot more cool tone, in which case you'll need a palladium belt. And then there are outfits, because of the tones that you choose, maybe because of the knit or the jacket, that will lean a little bit warmer. And for those outfits, I think it's really nice to have a gold belt because it will tie together a little bit more elegantly. A brand that I have been obsessed with is this one. I'm not going to try to pronounce them because they have quite a tricky name, even though they're American, but they have a French brand name and they specialize in belts and they do them so exquisitely. I'm pretty sure that you're going to be familiar with this style of belt that they do, which I think is called the Hollyhock. I'm sure you've seen this on some of your favorite influencers, but it is a brand that has a huge portfolio of belts. I do like this particular design that has, I think, 5 metal rings. They do them in gold, in silver, and also in a mix of different metals. So that could be a solution if you don't want to buy 2 belts. Just get one that features mixed metals. That is a really nice design, but I'm in love with this one, which is their Collier de Chien belt. Hermes is not the only brand that has a collection inspired by the Collier de Chien detail, which of course Collier de Chien means duck color in French, and the reason is that this particular detail was used on hunting duck colors back in the day. Hermes, of course, has an entire franchise dedicated to this detail in fashion history, but I was really happy to see that other brands are taking inspiration from this very same design, and these belts are a lot more affordable. Of course, they are still on the pricey side. I think they will set you back just around $300 a piece. And one thing to keep in mind is that their sizing is different from other brands. Their belts range between extra small and extra large, but they have a sizing guide online, which I would highly encourage you to look at because it explains how large the biggest hole is compared to the smallest one. So they have more of a range rather than just a single strap size, but they explain all of that online. I think I got mine in a medium because I am usually an 85 centimeter belt wearer, and it told me that this is the right size for me, and indeed it is. But this is a belt that I'm a huge fan of, and if you can buy a statement belt for $300, you do not have to go to an ultra luxury brand and spend twice as much. I was looking at some belts from Hermes this season, and some of their belts at this point are over $1,000, which to me is just insane when there are so many other incredible brands to support out there that will give you just as much statement, if not even more, because these are things that you will not see quite as often. They are not as redundant. And speaking of accessories, of course, I have to talk about shoes. The pair that I have picked for today's video is this pair of Chelsea boots from Hermes in chocolate brown suede, which I don't think they've done for quite a few years with this particular Be Happy detail, which is actually a relief because I have to be honest with you, they are to paint to put on. As beautiful as they look, they are not the easiest things to put on and take off just because of that particular detail, but they are genuinely some of the most beautiful boots I've ever seen, and they are the easiest way to elevate the most basic of outfits. I usually wear these with a pair of indigo jeans, a white t-shirt, and a really simple cashmere knit, and they look like $1,000,000. As I said, you can no longer buy these from Hermes, but I will make sure to have some more accessible options linked in the info box for you. Looking at this rack, I am just realizing how top heavy it is. I don't think I picked any trousers, but two style of trousers I have been loving is leather pants. I've been obsessed with leather jeans. Saint Laurent is a go-to for anything leather, but especially their leather pants. They are some of the best leather pants out there. And then in terms of jeans, I go back to the Citizens of Humanity. I think they're called the Hayden jeans time and time again. But let's get back to our rack, and a piece that you will definitely need in your wardrobe this fall is a statement knit. And when I talk about statement, what I'm referring to is the color. Here I have one of my most complimented piece of knit, which is this hot pink kind of fuchsia biker sweater from Rick Owens. It is one of his classic styles that he does each and every single season in different colors. I own this in a color called Pearl, which is kind of like an ivory, slightly grayish color. I have it in fuchsia. I have also bought it in black in the past, but this is the one that I get the most compliments on, and this is the perfect way to infuse some color into a gloomy day. Of course, you do not have to go for fuchsia or pink. Another color that I really, really like for fall is a hot, vibrant red, kind of like a chili red, which I always associate with the Road. They were one of the first brands that has put that particular color for a knit on my radar. And there are so many brands that do that beautiful chili red at this point, and you do not have to go to the road to get it. Not that you even could, because I don't think that that is a color that they still do. But having a statement, really colorful knit in your collection is such an amazing way to add some fun to an outfit. It's something that you can wear as a sweater, or you can also throw it over a more monochromatic look just over your shoulder and use it instead of a scarf, or just kind of as an accessory. But one thing that you will definitely need, especially if you buy the biker sweaters, which are quite sheer, is something to layer them over. Now, personally, I will wear these on their own, but if you want to make your knits last, you do not want to wash them too often. I personally don't wash any of my knits at home. I get all of them dry cleaned, but even that you do not want to do too often. So what I would suggest that you do is that you either steam your knits after wearing them if you're not going to layer anything underneath them, or that you invest in some second skin knits. You know that I am a huge fan of these. These are things that I will wear both on their own and also layered underneath knits, because what's great about them is that they essentially just become one with your skin. So they will look completely seamless, even under a thinner, more sheer knit. But these are an incredible staple to have in your collection. This one is from Organic Basics, and it is from their women's collection. I think it's called the Flex T. Of course, Skims is best known for doing these second skin layers, but I know a lot of you don't like Skims, or you don't want to pay Skims prices, in which case this is as good as Skims, if not even better, because they do some really nice colors. The quality is exceptional. And I also have a discount code with Organic Basics, which of course you are free to use to get some additional money off of their pieces. It's something that I love layering underneath my knits, so I don't have to wash them quite that often. And I have also worn these on their own, and even though they are from their women's collection, that would never stop me from buying them. I will buy whatever I like and whatever I feel suits my proportions, and it is just an incredible piece to have. I love this one for a short sleeve option. But if you're looking for something that is perhaps a little bit more cozy, I have one on one of these second skin turtlenecks in cashmere. I think it's a cashmere and spandex blend. And then there's also a merino wool option if you are looking for more of this turtleneck look, but with that really seamless sculpted second skin effect. This is a great staple, again, to have in your collection, either to layer underneath things like shirts, knitted vests, or any one of your knits. But I personally also love these on their own with a pair of high-waisted tailored trousers for that more formal look. And then the last piece of clothing before moving on to my top back pick is a really cozy, warm, and comfortable hoodie, but one that also looks flattering, because I don't want to wear a hoodie that could also be a pajama. I want something that looks like something it was intended to be worn outside. So I tend to go for styles that are slightly more cropped and fitted. I again love the Skims hoodies, but I'm very particular about which ones. There's really only one that I like, which has this really soft, cozy fleece lining, which I talked about in my Skims deep dive. But again, if you do not want to support Skims, or if you want something that feels a little bit more fashion forward, I also love these ones from Organic Basics again. And this video is by no means being sponsored by anyone. Whenever I do a sponsorship, you guys are the first to know, but I just genuinely love their cropped hoodie because it does make a fashion statement without sacrificing on comfort and coziness. I really like this little emblem that they have on the front, and I love how perfectly cropped these hoodies are. I have worn this layered underneath a nylon blazer from Prada, but I've also worn this just with a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and it keeps me really cozy and warm whenever I don't want to put too much effort into an outfit, but I still want to look polished and of course comfortable. This is a great staple that I always reach for. And what I like about this is that it leans a little bit more warm toned compared to other grays out there. So this is again another favorite of mine, but a cropped hoodie is just a great piece to have in your collection because it will keep you cozy and warm, but make you feel a little bit more polished and put together. And then last but not least, let's talk about a bag design that I think we all need in our collections, which is that do-it-all tote bag, one of those tote bags that you can stuff all your stuff into and it will keep you company throughout the day. A piece that I bought recently and I wanted to test for us is the new flat Celine luggage, which the next video you'll see from me is going to be a deep dive on this bag because I've only had this for a few days and I want to test it for at least another week before I share with you my verdict and final thoughts. But this is from their new luggage line. In case you were not aware, Celine has a new creative director who has just brought back the Celine luggage and they kind of blended it with the Phantom. I'll tell you all about that. And part of that collection is this new completely flat take on that iconic design, which I'm not sure how I feel about. I really wanted a large tote bag that I can carry to school. Then I can have all my gym stuff in there and go directly to the gym. Something that just fits all my essentials because I feel like in the summer, you really don't need bags that large, even if you have multiple things that you're doing throughout the day. You do not need a change of clothes. You do not need a scarf. You do not need that additional space to have, I don't know, a pair of gloves in there. You're just not carrying around that much. But in the fall and then going into the winter, we'll need more and more things with us. So I love having one large tote bag that I can rely on throughout the day, one workhorse bag that will do all the heavy lifting. This is not going to do that for me because what I did not realize is how completely undimensional it is. I mean, I think this bag measures, I looked it up online, I think it's something like half a centimeter wide and it genuinely feels more like a portfolio or kind of like a laptop case, but with handles. So I'll continue using this for a few more days and come back to you, but I just love this color. When I talked about statement sweaters, if you love colors, or maybe if you just love a monochromatic look, but you're looking to add some more interesting outfit, going for a pop of color in a bag could also be a fun way to spice up an outfit. And they do this not only in this beautiful electric blue, but it also comes in a really nice vibrant red. But I shall keep you posted on this. My first impression is that it is really thin. I think it can look quite awkward and I'm not a big fan of the leather, but stay tuned and make sure that you are subscribed because next week, as I said, I will do an in-depth review on that. But the bag that I have been genuinely loving and using for the past few weeks is this one from Fabrique, which was part of a collaboration that I did with Fabrique. This video again is not sponsored, but I recently worked with Fabrique on the launch of their new bag collection and I can't remember what this bag is called, but I will make sure to have all the details linked down below for you. I picked a few bags from that collection and I really did not think that I would love this particular bag. I mean, there was something about it that grabbed my attention, but I wanted to test it. And had I not liked it, I would have not shared it with you. But I was really pleasantly surprised by this particular shape. I have not had one of these shapes in my collection, which in the past we would have called a hobo bag. Now we know better than to use that term, but I've not had one of these slouchy casual shoulder bags in my collection for quite a few years, and I kind of forgot how amazing they are. And this particular bag I have really, really been enjoying, not only because of the style and the design. My favorite detail is that you can really easily adjust the strap, so you can either carry it under your shoulder or you can really easily turn this into a crossbody bag by adjusting the strap. If you would like to find out more details, I have an entire dedicated video on this collection. Well, not a dedicated video to this collection, but I review a big chunk of this bag collection with all the details that you need to know of. But I wanted to update you that it's something that I'm still really, really enjoying, and it's not something that I thought I would love as much as I actually do. But this style might be something that you want to look into again. It's definitely something that's coming back into trend, which I don't really care about trends. I don't care about trends because I want to look trendy. But of course, when something is trendy, you're going to have more and more options out there. And with Hermes bringing the So Kelly bag back, I think this particular style is something that we'll see a lot more of. And I would actually love to hear your thoughts on what you would call this particular style at this point, considering that we can, not that we cannot call it what we used to, but I don't want to. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you would describe this particular style of a handbag. Anyway, this is not a vocabulary class. It is all about some of my top 4 pieces, which I hope you enjoyed and you got some inspiration out of. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section on what pieces you've been loving this fall. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more from me, then make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And I will see you back here with a new video really, really soon.